Hi, I'm Leon, the founder of Audio Advice. This video is on the incredible McIntosh Hybrid Drive MA252 integrated amp that combines the best of both worlds with tube and solid state technology. There's probably no audio company in the world with a brand name as iconic as McIntosh. From their early days when they powered the Grateful Dead's wall of sound to current times, their gear has been coveted by audio lovers for its great sound, incredibly good looks, and extreme longevity. Their factory in Binghamton, New York has been turning out equipment that anyone would dream of owning for over the last 70 years. When Audio Advice visited the McIntosh factory in late 2018, we were amazed at how many parts they actually created themselves in-house. From their output transformers we watched being assembled from scratch to their custom glass face plates, they're just fanatical about quality. And if you've ever experienced the sound of McIntosh, you know for yourself why musicians, music lovers, and audiophiles alike are drawn to its musical, natural sound. During this same factory tour, the McIntosh team took us over to their engineering lab, where they lifted a little bit of the curtain on some upcoming products. The concept behind the MA252 was one of those things we saw, and we immediately loved the idea of marrying tubes on the preamp side and their great solid-state power amp technology to drive the speakers. For decades, audiophiles on our staff have recommended going with a tube preamp and solid-state power amp for the best choice when you want both musicality and long-term reliability. McIntosh components have always had a fantastic look and feel in my experience, but the MA252 just takes that McIntosh cool factor to another level. Their engineers combine some of the look of their 70-plus-year-old tube power amps with their more modern preamps to come up with an integrated amplifier you'll certainly want to have on display. From the side, it looks very similar to the classic MC275 power amp with the McIntosh logo and model number on the side. The front glass panel is all modern McIntosh with those green OLEDs we love, giving you a full view of how you're controlling it. A neat touch on the heat sinks is something you may not see at first glance, but there's an MC monogrammed into their design. The four tubes used in the input stage are on full display on top of the beautifully polished stainless steel chassis. And they have some super cool looking covers for them. And get this, when you power it on, they glow orange until the MA252 comes out of standby, and then they change to green. The two controls on the front are multi-purpose for input, volume, and trim. There's not much to add on the build quality other than it's just like you expect from McIntosh in the price range, simply about as good as it gets. Which is one reason the MA252 will likely be passed down to the next generation. McIntosh is built to last for decades. The MA252 is a pure analog integrated amplifier. You'll get a balanced audio input, two RCA line inputs, and a moving magnet phono input. You'll be able to give each input a custom name should you wish, and some very slick bass and treble controls are easily accessed from the front panel or the included handheld remote. You can actually assign a different setting to each input with these controls, including bypass. There's also a mono full-range RCA output for a subwoofer, but bear in mind there's no crossover that will be engaged on the main speakers if you add a sub. For most music lovers, simply adding a streamer or a turntable will be all they need to create some great sound. But the real magic behind the MA252 is their hybrid drive technology. This combines some classic tech McIntosh uses their more expensive gear that produces just stunning sound. Musicians and many music lovers appreciate the warm sound of vacuum tubes. Ever since the very early days of audio, tube sound has been bringing its warmth to audio systems. Tube amplifiers can sound amazing, but they do have a couple of drawbacks. First, the output tubes used in tube power amps are very large and can generate a substantial amount of heat. Secondly, output tubes are not inexpensive and need to be replaced more often than the smaller tubes found in preamps. Now, McIntosh does make some of the most reliable and long-lasting all-tube amplifiers on the market, but there is still the heat and tube replacement cost to consider. But many hardcore music lovers do go that way, as I have to say the sound is fantastic. But if you take the advantage of warm tube sound and put it in the preamp stage, then combine it with solid-state amplifier technology from one of the most famous solid-state amp makers ever, you have the McIntosh Hybrid Drive. The preamplifier stage of the MA252 uses vacuum tubes which give it that nice warm tube sound, while your speakers are coupled to a solid-state power amp that could deliver 100 watts per channel into 8-ohm speakers or 160 watts per channel into 4-ohm speakers. The great part about the MA252 is McIntosh did not have to start from scratch for either the preamp or power amp section. With several tube-only preamps and over dozens of solid-state power amps in their lineup, the engineers were able to use the tech and circuit design developed for these more expensive products in the MA252. The preamp stage uses two 12AX7 and two 12AT7 vacuum tubes. These types of tubes have been the mainstay of McIntosh tube preamps for decades, giving them years of experience in perfecting their circuit design. McIntosh has a special soft start circuit that brings up the tubes slowly, which greatly extends their life. McIntosh power amplifiers have always been known for their ability to control speakers very well, giving you great dynamics and punch to your music. They also incorporate some pretty neat output transistors. Most solid-state power amplifiers sound better after they've been warmed up for about an hour, but McIntosh uses their advanced high current output transistors that sound great from the first minute you turn them on. They have another advantage in the way they control the bias that reduces distortion on passages where you have lots of dynamic changes. Another neat tech used in almost all McIntosh solid-state power amps is their patented power guard system. We've all probably witnessed a time when there was too much fun being had and someone cranked up the system far louder than was called for. This would normally cause the amp to go into clipping. With other brands, this might result in blown tweeters or an amp with smoke coming out of it. This will never happen with PowerGuard. It constantly monitors the signal and will kick in to prevent any clipping. You'll know when this happens on the MA252 as the tubes will flash orange, then return to green when the clipping disappears. Some of us have also made the mistake of moving or connecting speakers with the unit turned on. If the positive and negative speaker leads touch each other, you could damage your amplifier. McIntosh Sentry Monitor will shut down the MA252 if it sees a short, preventing any possible damage. A side benefit of this tech is there's no need for bad sounding fuses in the signal path like most amplifiers have. And for those times when you want to listen and not disturb anyone, there's a powerful and outstanding sounding high drive headphone amp built into the MA252, which should be able to drive almost any pair of headphones with ease. All of these great features make the MA252 one heck of an amazing product. It combines decades of McIntosh tube and solid-state technology into one beautiful box that sounds as good or even better than it looks. Setup is pretty straightforward using the typical McIntosh on-screen menu, but know that if you purchase your MA252 from Audio Advice, you'll have our team of audio fanatics behind you to help you with any setup questions you have and how to make it sound best in your system. I put the McIntosh MA252 through a couple of tests using some JBL 4309 bookshelf speakers and some of the new Martin Logan XTF200 towers. The MA252 is just a joy to use. Press the power button and the tubes glow orange with the display says the tubes are warming up, then soon they glow green and you're ready to listen. There's no question the MA252 has that classic McIntosh sound. It's detailed yet warm with great bass control. Separation instruments and three-dimensionality were spot on. I used a Core DAC fed by a Blue Sound node for the streaming digital side. The Core DAC has extremely good rhythm and pacing characteristics, and I was curious to see if it would come through using the MA252. The way it did was a big surprise. It had that sense of engagement you get with much more expensive gear, really drawing me into the music with my toes tapping. When I pushed the towers really hard, I could tell the MA252 was starting to run out of gas a little bit, but they were in a large room and I had it up pretty loud. Had this been a McIntosh preamp with, say, an MC312 power amp at 3 times the power, I'm sure there'd be no strain. But the MA252 is far less expensive than that combination, yet has very similar tonal quality until you run out of juice. My synopsis is the MA252 is one heck of a great way to get into the wonderful sound of McIntosh to hear the best of both worlds, tube warmth with the control of their solid-state power. The McIntosh 252 is a piece of gear made for music lovers. It's probably not for the person who only plays 4 or 5 tracks all the time and tries to hear every little detail, changing components all the time, chasing something they'll never achieve. You'll connect it up and be immersed in the sound that people have loved about McIntosh for decades. It's warm, rich, yet detailed, allowing you to enjoy all of the music in your library. I do think you'll want to use medium to high sensitivity speakers with it if you're the type who likes to crank things up. But know it can drive low sensitivity speakers very well in modest sized rooms at reasonable levels. Are the McIntosh separates better? Yes, no question. But the value and cool factor of the MA252 is just hard to beat. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our latest content. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.